Yo guys, what's going on? Hazy here. Welcome back to another video on the channel. It's been a while, but it's been a while since we've had any decent results to really do a deck profile on. So yeah, we've just finished an OCE online regionals, and we managed to get 6th place today. So that's definitely my best finish. A little bit disappointed that my win-loss percentage wasn't as high as it could have. Well, it wasn't as high as it could have been, because we just missed out on top 4, which would have been something really cool to get. But nonetheless, I can't complain about 6th place. And we did it with my most favourite deck, the old Cooler Mill. And this thing, since getting its anniversary support, shout out to Bandai for the anniversary support, because this thing is amazing now. I narrowly missed out on top 16 last weekend. I come 17th. I bubbled out again on win percentage. So to sneak in the top 16 this time was a very good thing. Just to miss out on top 4, well, you know, it is what it is, but we'll be better next time, I guess. So straight up, we'll get into the leader. Cooler, so if those that don't know what it does now, so this is a mill deck, and the goal is to get your opponent to 0 cards in deck, and we managed to do that in all of our games that we won, because this deck, now that's got its anniversary support, can actually kill you if you don't respect it. So pretty straightforward. The only annoying thing about this leader in general on its unawakened side is you have to attack a leader card. So mill decks tend to want to leave opponents at high life, and if you can't get awakened quickly, you just have to keep swinging into your opponent and, you know, making them take life, which will make things like super combos active, things like that. But when the power of one of your opponent's battle cards is decreased, your opponent places the top card of their deck in the drop. If you manage to do it with a battle card on your opponent's turn, you get to draw 1 card. So being able to go plus on your opponent's turn in any deck is really strong. On the awakened side, it's the same thing, except you get to draw a card if you lower a battle card with a battle card on your turn. So you get to do it both turns. So you can go plus 2 in hand on your swing, and on your opponent's turn you can go plus 1. But we won't go over the Z deck just yet, but we'll go into the Z leader. This thing is amazing on different levels, because again, it just Z awaken at any life. So once you're awakened, you pay 1 blue. Same thing again, when you decrease a battle card, the your opponent mills 1. But the added one is that on your opponent's turn, you now draw 2 instead of 1. So going plus 2 in hand on both sides in any leader is just simply, like, it's so good. The other activate main, we did get it off. We did use it once, but unfortunately it was in our loss. It was met by a royal condemnation, because that thing is just amazing in Invoker. But that it is what it is. So if they got 20 or fewer cards in the deck, you can play a Cooler, you play a Freezer. A lot of the time, you play out the Freezer, you play out the Cooler. The Cooler will neg something to Freezer. We'll get into that later. So basically, it's just an easy way, a cheaper way to cheat out your 5-cost Freezer, because at the end of the turn, you get to untap 2 of your energy. So basically becomes a 3 energy. If you choose the right Cooler, you can actually get another card back in hand to rival again, and you get a 3rd untap. So it ends up costing 2 if you use the right cards. But Z Leader is absolutely crazy. I think it justifies by only having a 15k Z Leader, whereas the not so busted Z Leaders have 20k bases. Which, mind you, a 20k base in this deck would actually be very good. So straight into it, because we now have turn 1 charging and active, run some 1-drops. So around 2 pan and 217. I think
3 pan?
Sorry, yeah, 3 pan, 270. So I think I might do this the other way around, because obviously the pan is really good because it's just a 1-cost barrier that sits on your field, and I did look at this at one point, and I didn't want to go for that freeze and mill out win con. So I didn't run this, but shout out to Max Kennedy. Last weekend I played against him, and we were sort of chatting after the game, and he recommended these again because they are just a barrier. So they're just free combo at any time, and they draw a card. So a lot of the time, like, you want to go into your opponent's turn with at least 1 energy tap, because your super combo will untap a multicolor. So you don't want to go in with like full stacked up energy. So you want to have something tapped. So this is a really good target. So when it's played, just draws a card, just filters your deck, and at any time you can just give it to your opponent if you want to neg it, because you obviously have things that can neg it. But in saying that, this 17 is really good. I did see it in a few lists, and I've got so many different variants of Cooler Mill that I've been trying to play. Last weekend I didn't play these 5 cards, and I think it probably, I don't know. It's hard to say whether these would have changed my results last weekend, but they definitely helped. Like because this searches for any multicolor 6 or less, and you don't run any multicolors that are under 6 or less. So you're pretty much all your deck becomes searchable outside of your non-multicolor cards. The bottom auto doesn't affect us because we're not a Warriors Universe 7. But this card, I think I would probably nearly consider going to a 3-2, maybe even going up to 3-3, just trying to find the right number of cards to play in Cooler Mill. It isn't the thing. Because your Z Leader does draw 2, you basically can draw 2 off your Z Leader on both turns. You actually do come close to milling yourself out, which you definitely don't want to end up milling yourself out if you're playing a mill deck. So now we go for our rival package, which is where the milling happens. You run 3 Hercule Boo. This one, until the anniversary support, I was leaning on completely cutting this because I was getting in a lot of situations where, because this doesn't neg barrier, and people play things with barrier, you can't really justify playing it. But then it becomes a 1 for 10k in your hand. Now that it's got the ability to be comboed with the anniversary support, it just sort of makes it a bit better. And because I'm not running any of the combo attack chain, it is still a way to bounce cards in hand. I don't get it off very often because your opponents can play around it real well. They can just target the card that you would intend to bounce and just kill that instead of killing this, and it kind of loses a bit of its value. But the next one, this is the Anniversaries box, and I personally think that this was my MVP of today. My MVP. And the biggest reason, apart from the fact that it can be charged in active mode, so it makes your pan and your Android 17 live turn 1, so you can have an opening hand play, which is really, really strong now, because before you had to charge a multi and active. That was the only way to get efficiently started in Cool Mill, was to charge a multi and rest. But the other reason is that it's a 25k, so it gets around Koitsukai. Not only that, it negs 20 ignoring barrier on play. If this thing didn't ignore barrier, I probably don't win, I would say, 2 of my games today against set 2 Vegito. I played set 2 Vegito twice. And this thing, being able to play this, if they've got 2 8-drops with barrier, you can play this. You're like, if you get your combo going and you've used your freezer combo, so you're already a 15k combo, you drop this, you neg one of the 35ks by 20, it goes down to a 15, and then you combo out of the other triple strike. This is basically gotten around Koitsukai and stopped an extra triple strike swing. So, like, this guy definitely, I think, was my MVP of the day. The other one, which we always run 4 of because it's a free multicolor combo, it's only 5k, but still, I've actually nearly considered running this at maybe 3, just for another space for something else, but I still think that the free 5k combo is really good, because then you don't want, like you said, you don't want to, I was having the problem of getting extra multis stuck in my hand 1 for 10ks, but this thing is still really good because it searches out top 5 on play and gets you a Freezer's Clan. So that's pretty much all your rival targets, except obviously the Hercule Boo. And next, something 15k ignoring barrier. It's a dual attack, it's a blocker, so it has a lot of different uses. If you just want to arrival it, get 2 swings into a unison. If you want to arrival it for defense, if your opponent sort of taps out and you know there's still another swing coming, they've got no way to remove it, you can play this. You get your search. You essentially get a draw 2 from it, because you get a top 5 search and a draw from the neg, and then you can double down as a blocker. So this guy did see play a few times. He actually come in handy once or twice, because I was able to just play in, the opponent had overextended, and then I was just able to block the next attack. And last but not least, the good old, let's get the rarities right. I think the SPR probably is the best, but we have 2 SPRs and 1 winner. Definitely need to work on getting those all sorted. But this guy, the bread and butter of the deck, 1 red to play him. He's double strike if you need to. And on play, he mills a card to start with. So even if your opponent isn't playing battle cards, and you can team it even with a Hercule Boo and just keep bouncing it at the end of every turn, getting it back into your hand, it'll just keep milling 1 card. But on play, it'll neg 2 things, ignoring barrier, 10k. So essentially, if your opponent's got a loaded board, they're going to mill 3. To win my last game against sets 2 Vegito, it was actually a really, really good comeback because he played Power Patara, rested 4 of my energy. I had 2 super combos in hand. I had 3 super combos in hand, and I ate a triple strike, went down to 1 life, and I managed to rip a Sensu Bean, another one of these guys. So I was able to untap 3 energy with the super combo, a Sensu Bean, play 2 of these guys, and 1 of this to mill the last 7 cards in his deck. So these guys are still the thing that you want to be seeing the most of. The cheap, pretty much 1 energy to mill 3 cards in any mill deck is strong. So still, I think the bread and butter of the deck. But this guy was definitely my MVP today. And 1 copy of Suffering Tyrannity. I had this cut, and I wasn't a fan of it because it's 3 energy, and it doesn't. If it hit barrier, it would see a lot more play. But because it doesn't hit barrier, it's just 3 energy to mill 1 card. It really isn't super valuable on defense. It is good to play off your leader skill if you tap 5 for it, so you can play 1, make a mill 1, swing, make a mill 1, and at the end turn, return it to your hand and untap a multi, which then eventually only makes this activate main costing 2. You just got to invest 5 at the start. So it is good, but I played a Cooler Mill mirror match last week. Shout out to Tim. Again, another person that I was able to pick his brain about Cooler Mill and give me a bit more insight on maybe what I wanted to run on this deck, which eventually has turned into a 6th place today. But we ran one of these, and if you are playing a very stally game, your opponent's not playing many cards, and it's just a really slow grind, you can just use your leader skill just to pay 5, just to hardcast it. And if you don't want to attack, if you're scared of things getting removed, or if you are in the mirror match, you can just play this, make a mill 1, and then return it to the hand. You untap your 3. And you can just keep doing that and slowly burn them if they're not attacking you or they're not playing battle cards for any sense. So it is very, very situational, this guy, because if they do play a big bomb, SS4 Bardock was actually a very repped deck in the field today from what I saw. And just being able to straight up deal with the quad strike or the 8-drop Gogeta with this guy is very powerful. So we ran 1. We had another in the side just because I wasn't too sure if I was going to get some grindy kind of matchups where maybe a second one being able to see it would have been very handy. Next up, we've got essentially our game closers, I guess you could say. So you could either pretty much kill someone with this or mill them out. So I actually only learnt this last weekend as well, because for the longest time, I never really ran this card. I just knew that it just negged the board, not tokens, ignoring barrier, and then you just mill essentially 3 cards with your leader for every card that you negged. But the interaction is that it pretty much gains your leader's skill of when your opponent's battle card is reduced. So when anything is reduced, this card will make you mill 2, along with this one making you mill 1. So essentially mill 3 for every neg. So even if you play against, say, like a yellow or something, or someone that just won't be able to remove this, even just trying to stick this on the board and making it last to your opponent's turn, they have to remove this, or they're just going to keep milling cards like crazy. It's a triple strike, so it can close out game if your opponent's in triple strike range, or even if it needs to remove a unison. But when it swings, ignores barrier, negs everything, 30k. We did use this once. I think we negged might have been 3 battle cards. So it was only 9 cards, but 9 cards when you've got 12 to 15 cards left in deck. 9 cards is a lot of cards. Like, that's well over like 75% of your deck. We do need a second SPR of this though. Last weekend I did only run 1, and then it actually won me a game last weekend. Just being I think I was able to neg something like 17 cards. So I figured I'd need to, I think it's a necessary evil to run 2 of these, because you can, if you see it early, it's stuck in your hand, you don't want to charge it, and you don't want to combo it with your freezers. So having a second one just allows you to be able to combo it if you get stuck with it early on, and then still be able to use it in the late game. Next up, our super combo of choice. There's no 2 ways about it. Beerus super combo. Just untap a multi on your opponent's turn. But when we now team that with the new anniversary support, which is this freezer. This freezer is amazing, but so when it's played, it negs something 5k, and you can take a life. So it helps you self-awaken, and even if you're awakened and you just want your neg for the turn and tap an energy to make this more valuable, you can just pay 1 to play it. don't need to take a life, but you can neg something 5k. So you essentially a draw for 1 energy, you become a draw 1, mill 1 essentially. So that's really strong. But the best effect is when it attacks, or when you combo with it from your hand, you can combo a red-blue multi from hand. So there's no specified cost in it, and like a lot of the more modern cards do, when they combo things for free, it tends to be with skills negated. This isn't with skills negated. So not only do you get to combo a multi for free, so it stops your hand getting clogged up with 1-cost multis, you get to draw a card. So it essentially becomes another super combo where you just needs 2 cards, but you get 1 back. So you go neg 1 in hand for 2 cards, but you get to filter your multis that are stuck. And then we used the Vardos. I haven't really looked into the Whis. I feel like the Whis could probably be a bit handier, just end up being another hard negate and a blocker, but we never use it for the counterplay. We want opponents to be playing cards. We don't want them to be stopping playing cards. But when this card is in your hand and it's played or used in a combo, you get to untap an energy. So it basically becomes another Beerus. And you can do this on both you and your opponent's turn. So even if you... there was one game where I had to play a card, I went down to 4 energy and I wanted to use my Activate main. So we combo with this, combo that, go back up to 5, which then makes our Activate main on our Z lead alive. So I did have it at 4, but with the deck space being tight, it's only got 1 use apart from being charged in rest mode, and that's just be combo with the freezer. And you don't always want to hold your freezers just to combo with this card, because sometimes you need to combo away your multi. So I feel like 3 is a really good number. I don't think I would consider going to 2, because you've basically gone to 7 cards, and with Senzu Bean, there's a lot more on tap in this deck. So it's always been a red deck that tries to be blue. The Anniversary Report just made it a lot more. 2 Gohan rares. This card is really good in the deck. Obviously, in these matchups where people play a lot of barrier cards, it does have its problem. But the one thing that people have said to me with this deck is, oh, it struggles with unisons. It struggles with unisons. And don't get me wrong, it does struggle with unisons. But this guy obviously restores a bit of power to it. Last weekend, for example, there was a Go Bros matchup with the Golden Freezer. We can just play this, neg the unison by 10, which is really, really strong, because none of the other cards in this deck neg unisons. So this being able to deal with, help deal with a unison is really strong. So negging a unison by 10 might just stop them swinging with it. Could even lose them the last marker to have a unison removed. The other effect that it does do, and I have used this once in testing, is you combo with it as well and just neg the unison by another 15. So if they've got like the Gohan rare, the Gohan unison, for example, you don't even need to play. You could just combo this and just neg it by 15, and that's pretty much 2 swings that you've gotten yourself out of for 1 energy. So I did have 3, but it's starting to come up a little bit less. So we moved 1 to the side to make room for 1 of these guys, and I actually really, really, really would like to consider running 2 of these, because you do need Z energy now. This does become live a little bit. There's a little bit more, and when you use like the combo the Vardos and the Freezer, that's 2 cards, so you get a Z energy. You pretty much guaranteed a Z energy for there. So generating Z energy in this deck is a lot easier than it was before the anniversary stuff. And this guy is really, really strong, because not only is he a blocker, he's a double strike, and when he's played, he negs something 20k. So it's just really, really handy if your opponent's just trying to, like, I have a second one on the side, and I specifically, for cards that get effects by being removed from the game that don't have barrier, so you can just play this guy, neg them by 20, and then they might, like, it could potentially just KO the card and just ruin their effect to be able to remove the card from the game to play something else. SO4 Bardock is one that comes to mind when they play the Z Battle card. You can play this, neg it by 20, they can't remove it to reduce the cost. So this is really strong. I really would like to find room for 2 on this. It is very situational, because once you're Z Awakened, it's kind of dies and you're kind of in the end of the game. So it's really good around the mid game, I think. 3 Cell Max, and I did have this at 4, but I actually found today not using it, mainly because, like I said, I played 2 Vegetos, which is a lot of barrier. And last week I did run Peel Off Shumai in my sideboard for that exact reason, to play Peel Off Shumai, remove the barrier, and then block with this, have it blown up. And then, because they've no longer got barrier, it's going to neg 30k, but it's essentially a 2-card combo that you really need the cards. And unless you're running, like, you know, 3 to 4 of them, it isn't as good. I was never able to get it off, so I just felt that it was wasted space. And this is really good. I only used this once today. I played it, I swung twice, and then I was able to neg. It was in my SS4 matchup. I was able to neg their 30k Gogeta by 30 just by swinging twice. And so it's really good. If they remove it, so if you don't know, it's a 1 energy 30k, 1 energy 25k. It's ridiculously good in any red deck. It's also a blocker. Whenever it activates blocker, it restands, and at the end of the battle, it gets minus 15. So you can essentially block 2 attacks with it. If your opponent can't remove it or just chooses not to remove it, and you can block 2 attacks and then neg something 30k, which negging is what your deck wants to do, making them mill. So again, it could become a 1 energy mill 1, mill 1, draw 1, two swings at a unison, or just to close the board down, just if it's a bit too wide or something like that. So I think I might go down to 2 of this guy, because I just found myself siding the 3rd copy out. We only run 1 Sin, because I actually only own 1. Rip to my Sin deck, wherever it is. I hope it's in a better place. But it wouldn't be as a red Z leader without running a Sin. It isn't super... I don't consider it super valuable in the deck. I have seen some lists trying to play aggression that run 3 or 4 of these. It's just really not worth it, because it doesn't have any protection, so it is easily removed. It's just 2 energy. If you have a Z leader, you can play it out, and then during activate battle, you can neg something 30k and then something 3k for each Z energy you have. At this time, you've normally only got 1, maybe 2 Z energy, so you're only targeting 1 thing, and that's just to neg at 30k. It is triple strike if they don't respect you, and you do need to close a game out. You can just swing a triple strike for 2 energy. Now we have 3 Oceania, everyone's favorite Shadow Dragon. There's a lot of people that always moan and groan when they see her come out. She is still very good for this deck. I was running at a point where I wasn't running it, and I feel like it still needs to be ran. Into yellow, this is really, really, really good, because the only way they're stopping this effect is countering it, because if you read it, it says it needs to play. As soon as it plays, it gets its floodgate effect, whereas a lot of these cards, other floodgates, they have to play, and if you play them without their skills or they don't hit the board, so be it. And yellow just negates skills of things. So counter is the only thing that gets around this in yellow. Didn't see any yellow today, but that's all right. But I do team it up well with a card in my sideboard into certain matchups where she does get sided out. But I tend to just use her either early game or late game if I know that they can't swing through it. They've overextended a little bit. You can just play this, and then they pretty much will shut the turn down, because she is very vulnerable. Being a 2-cost floodgate, people see this deck. She's vulnerable to Koitsukai. You're going to lose essentially 3 cards from hand if you want to play her under Koitsukai, and they can just counterplay her very easy. So she does do a job. So I did have 4, and I thought, no, 3 is a good number. I would, even in some games, I was siding out to 2. 4 bean, because 4 bean, I was actually really hopeful to get 3 more of the new beans. I really like the new bean art, so that will be going in this deck. So beans just more on top of the deck. 1 after image. I only used this once today. In my original testing, I was testing a lot against Go Bros using the Goku SCR, where they give them triple attack and then they pitch the field card to give it crit. So I was running 2 with these, but I just found myself not even needing it. Especially today, I think I used it once, and that was just early on, just so I didn't have to eat a double strike or take any damage at all. But still relevant, because the next something 10k, so it can pretty much be a mill 1. 2 testings. I'd consider going down to 1 to testing, but sometimes you just really do want to see it, especially if you want to go from if you don't want to eat a double or a triple strike, going from 5 life down, because that is really painful for this deck. And then that's the only time it really gets used. You don't necessarily want to be using it when you're down below 3 life, because then it just puts you in double strike range, which makes things a bit hard, because a lot of decks can just deal with a blocker when you play them. So we only ever use this to go 5 life to 4 life, or on a certain occasion trying to go from 4 life to 3 life if we don't want to take a double strike or something like that. 2 Draw Apes. This is slowly getting phased out, because the amount of untap you got in the deck, they are still very handy to be able to draw more cards. There was one point today where I had 16 cards in my hand, and unfortunately I ran into a Tyranny's Cost where I lost 6 cards because of that. But this just helps you pump your hand early game if you haven't seen a 17 or a pan. So I did have this at 3 last weekend, but definitely like bringing in like the Android 17s and stuff, you got a bit more search, and still having 1 energy open instead of none is still a very helpful thing, because you can start rivaling the chilled and stuff. Before, you would have to you'd tap 2 for this, and then you'd have to untap with the Beerus and then untap with a Sensu Bean to play like the cooler and to play a chilled or the two cost cooler or the cooler and boo combo. So I just feel like 2 in this is just right, and it's a good target to pitch from Oceania, or even if you're just playing against someone that will randomly make you discard a card from hand. Not crazy hand control, but you can just pitch this. It's a very good target. And then if for whatever reason your hand does get depleted from trying to swing from playing through Koitsukai or something, you can just tap 2 and regash your hand a little bit, which is very good. And last 2 cards, this is a little bit of tech. So the one thing that this deck struggles with a lot is Koitsukai. And I was able to get this off once today. Last weekend I ran it at 2. I didn't really... A few times today I played through... one game I played through 2 Koitsukais and removed a Koitsukai. So essentially I dealt with 3 Koitsukais. And in another game I dealt through 2 Koitsukais, but that was mainly due to the new 25k cooler. So this is also very, very handy. If your opponent wouldn't expect to see this. So it's a 1 cost. You can play it in counterplay. So when people combo their Koitsukai, you use it for Z energy and then tap 1, play a Z battle card. That makes this live to be able to bottom deck the Koitsukai. So when it's played, you draw a card. So it's a cantrip at worst. And then you shuffle up to 1 card from your opponent's drop back into their deck. So if they have Koitsukai just chilling, if they combo Koitsukai off early and you see it there and you have this, you can just pay 1 for this, shuffle the Koitsukai back into their deck. So it either makes them have to find another Koitsukai, or it just means that they have to be really careful about playing around this. Because if they leave it in the drop, or even if they use it as Z energy, pay 1 for the Z energy, you can just play this in the counterplay and then bottom deck the Koitsukai. So like if they want to play a Z battle card and then Koitsukai you, well, you can hop in between the interaction and remove it. So it's very good. I got it off once, which was very, very, very helpful, because having to deal with 3 Koitsukais is hella crazy. And last but not least, SCR of choice is Pan. So I don't like running Golden Cooler in this because it's 5 energy. You can't... Pretty much Golden Cooler, yes, it's a reset. It will destroy their hand and whatnot. But you kind of have to go on the win con then. You are tapped out at 5 energy, or even you might only have 2 or 3 energy at the most if you're playing a long, grindy game. And I just felt that Golden Cooler was just a bit too much. Things like Gohanks, I think, is a bit too energy heavy. You want to have as much energy as you can, especially now because you've got the cooler to play around the Koitsukai. You kind of want to have extra energy open so you can fall back on that if you need to. And like the other one to run would be Vermilion Saiyans. So you can warp 2, maybe 3 cards, at least 2 because of your thing. But the problem I find with Vermilion Saiyans is A, doesn't negate the attack. I mean, mind you, neither does Pan. So it doesn't negate the attack. But if your opponent doesn't have a big board, you might only get 1, maybe 2 cards to warp if you use it. And then the problem being is you get a 10k bean. Yeah, cool, 10k bean is fine. But when your opponent has a fair size in hand, or they realize that Cooler Mill runs this SCR, it is easy to play through because you can just start playing more battle cards after the Vermilion Saiyans. It doesn't lock you out of the turn. Pan, yes, I only used her once today and she got countered, which it is what it is, but I paid 2 for her because she wasn't free, because there was only 3 battle cards on board. For every battle card, it gets reduced by 2. So even if your opponent has 3 battle cards, you can just pay 2 for Pan. It isn't the worst thing in the world because it does floodgate them. They run unisons, it is what it is. But if you have 3 more energy, your opponent can't attack with battle cards for the turn. So if they have unison and leader swing, yeah, fair enough. But it basically locks them out of being able to swing with battle cards. So if they have a fair sized board and they go, I'm going to swing with my leader first, you can pan them, and then because it doesn't warp the cards away or stop the attack, you're live to be able to do your shenanigans with your arrival package without having to worry about them playing more cards and swinging again after you've removed some cards. Because you know, you find yourself in some situations where at the start of the turn your opponent's got, say, 2-3 battle cards, and they've got, you know, 4 or 5 energy. If you go hard and neg all the battle cards straight away, they'll just play more, and you're tapped out. But you play Pan, there's no point them playing any more battle cards. You can just deal with the ones that are on board, and you can get back to your turn, reset everything. So she's a really good reset. Worst case, you can pay 1, remove her, and just take a battle card that you just can't get rid of. Like, for example, if you're playing against Pan, I played it last weekend, and my opponent played a Pan and just paid 1 to remove mine. So it's just a way to get a body off the board. So I think for now, she's my SCR of choice. You guys might have other opinions. So we'll go over the Z deck. Obviously, we know about the Z leader, really good. This, I really would like to have a second one of these, because this is really, really strong in the deck, because it does actually go a little bit towards your win con. And like I was saying earlier, 1 Z energy is really good. 1 energy is cheap. Like I was saying earlier, you don't always want to go into your opponent's turn with all your energy up because of your Beerus super combo. So just paying 1 and 1 Z energy for this, just to put a 15k combo on your board, because a lot of the time you will be floating around 2 to 3 Z energy. And at the end of the day, Z Awakening isn't like the main goal of the deck. You can get away, you can still win games without Z Awakening. So there was some games where it was very late in the game where I actually Z Awakened. But this one, like all the new ones are doing, you know, you remove 1, you get 15k, but the really good effect is, if you are generating a lot of Z energy, you can pay 1 red, and you remove 3 Z energy, you get 15k, and you draw a card, and you neg a battle card by 25. So in one of my Vegito matchups, they played the Sin. I think what I'd done is I'd played the Gohan rare to neg at the 5 to gain the 5, and then I popped this to neg at the 25. So it draws a card, and it mills your opponent a card for 1 energy. So 1 energy to draw and mill your opponent is very, very good in this deck. So no two ways about it. This card is really good. I would have liked to have had a second one, but unfortunately I don't. Next card is a Cell. Just if we just have things that we just want to deal with, we can just deal with it with a Cell. Beerus, same thing again. I've never used Cell or Beerus today, but if you really just need to remove big bodies with barrier, that's your go-to play. 1 Vegeta, because it does aid your win con of just milling 1, drawing 1. For 2 energy is a little bit more expensive when you've got cards that can do it for 1. So he never got used. This guy I do like, but he is very situational. So he does cost 3 energy, so he is very, very expensive in the thing. But he's a barrier blocker, so sometimes just being able to have multiple blocker bodies on the field just means your opponent's got to try a bit harder to get through you. And the really cool thing about him is when he attacks, he negs something 15k, which is good. It aids the win con. So it draws 1, and it makes them mill 1. The other thing that it does too is that when it's your turn, if this did this on your opponent's turn, this card would be really, really good. But if it's your turn, when you reduce something to 0 with a skill, it switches to active mode. So you can essentially play it, swing into something, neg it 15, it goes to 0, you restand it, you swing again, you neg something 15. So it can basically become a draw 1, mill 2 for 3 energy, which is, it's one way you can go, or you can go make it a mill 1, draw 1, and then restand for a barrier blocker for 3 energy, which is what I think the best use for it is. But 3 energy can be a bit much in this deck. And last one, this was a last minute addition because I actually saw it on one of the streams last night over in, I think it's NA. This is the promo beam, and it's basically a 3 cost 1 Z energy, and it negs your opponent's board by 25k. So if you have got a lot of tall bodies and they don't have barrier, you can just neg them all by 25. It is obviously, again, 3 energy is a bit expensive, but it basically, it's 1 more energy than a Garlic Jr., and it'll neg them more, and it just means that that's a Garlic Jr. you don't have to worry about running in your deck, or the Gohan only negs 10k. So this is pretty strong. It also doubles down. If you have 4 or more energy and your red Cell max with the energy cost of 8 is attacking, you can pop this and give it 15k and double strike. So it basically does allow your Cell max to be able to close out game for like a 40k double strike just by having this on board as well as negging it. So I never used it. It never really come up in a situation where I didn't have a big enough board that I just wanted to neg. But it is still handy just to have on the side, because I don't feel like there's a lot of side options for Cooler Mill, and just to run 7 in this. 7 is better than nothing. So we'll go over the side now, and some of this is just ratios, and just another Gohan and another one of the blocker Gohan. So just, this got sided in a lot. This was mainly if I was going to play against someone that I knew was going to play wide boards, SS4 for example, without barrier protection. Just to bring another one of these in is really strong. 2 combo attack coolers. This is just for the grindy kind of games where you know are going to go long and you just want to recycle your freezers. I do prefer the cooler combo attack because it can start a good chain of just untapping your energy for free, just generating 25k swings if you want to go for the win con. But this one has the added effect which can really help your hand if it's getting clogged up. So when it's played, you can choose a card in your hand, place it in the drop, which is another good target for your draw apes, or even if you've got a heap of 1-cost multis in your hand. And then you can choose a Freezer's Clan card, blue or red, in your drop. Energy costs 5 or less, and add it to your hand. So you can recycle. Let me get them. Where are they? So you can recycle these, which basically means that you can, if you've used 4 and you can get 1 back, and you've got a Vardos or even a multi stuck in hand, it just helps you unclogging your hand again. So in those real long grindy games where you feel like you might need them, this is just a handy little sideboard card. I think I sided it once, used it once, and was able to get me a card back. And then even if you have got a lot of multis in hand, it can just really affect what your next charge can be. So if you haven't been charging the active mode coolers and you've played one and they've KO'd it, you can get that back for a multicolor charge, or just get a red charge back just to be able to help you with charging, so you don't have to charge things in rest mode. Another cooler, just like I was saying, for the grindy matchups where you feel like you just got to chip away at them and you want to be able to see it. 2 Topo. Topo is my red floodgate. So a lot of decks, especially red decks, knowing that Cooler Mill's getting around, will run things like the shoes that hit the 5Ks, or even Beerus balls that hit 15Ks. Topo is a hard one for red to hit, because I believe that there's only Omen of Awakening. There might be 1 or 2 others that hit 20Ks. So people aren't necessarily running 20Ks. Yes, it can fall under Koitsukai, but this is pretty much a guarantee. Like what Oceania is to yellow, this is my answer to red. So if I see red, I'm pretty much siding these in and siding Oceanias out. I did run it at 3, but I was running out of space in my sideboard, so I wasn't too sure. Might maybe make some room to go back to a 3rd one, but still. And the other good thing about Topo is, I suppose in the green matchups where they're going to rip your hand apart, Oceanias, for effect, you have to discard 1. Topo, you can get away. If this is the only card in your hand and you need to floodgate them, that's okay, because Topo says just choose 1 other card in your hand and place it in the drop. It's not a cost. So Topo can get around if you've only got 1 card in hand, whereas Oceania can't. 1 Jiren Survival of the Fittest. You have to respect turning the tide. Shout out to Anthony Hayne. I actually tested a game against him yesterday. He's probably one of the best Soul Strikers, if not the best Soul Striker player in OCE. And we were playing a very neck-to-neck game. It got very close, and he basically just dropped turning the tide, and that was game over for me. So I definitely didn't want to lose that way. So this just is to respect that. 2 Black Smoke. If you ever, it's kind of unnecessarily evil. If you're gonna play someone that's gonna play a problem unison, you can get rid of it with this. Or even if you just feel like you're gonna, even in say for example like the green matchups, you could probably just side this in just as another draw ape essentially, if you really felt you needed it. But it never got sided in. 3 Deborah, because I'd rather die fighting than have my hand ripped apart against green. So these are very necessary. I didn't play any green today, thankfully. And 2 Protector of the People. Protector of the People is another way around Koitsukai. The way that the things are at the moment, people will swing with battle cards first, and then if they play unisons, you're not always getting the full effect of gaining 5k per turn now. So I feel like this is a good way to bait a counter under Koitsukai. Because your deck, because on your Z leader you can draw 2 cards, you don't necessarily mind warping 2 cards if you're going to neg something, because you're going to get the 2 cards that you lost back. So it's not necessarily too much of a loss in hand. So I feel like this is a good way to bait out counters to really force your opponent into it. But I think I started in for one game, but I didn't use it. I suppose into SS4 Bardock, there's another one, a lot of 16k beaters, kind of thing like that. But still, it's very, very useful in this deck. But I just didn't use it very much. So yeah, that is going to be the deck profile for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll catch you hopefully on another deck profile soon.